and a town which is kind of outside London. You kind of class it as London, but it's not really London. But it's about a 35-40 minute journey by train into London, which is next to Windsor, which you may have heard about, where Windsor Castle is, which is one of the places that the Queen of England lives. And it's also around the corner from the next town along Hoxtons, which is where Ali G's from, which you may have heard of. Where all the strange white booyah chefs for a time maybe. But yeah, and also it's around the corner from Heathrow Airport as well. So it's fairly kind of well located in the UK, particularly if you're doing international travel and you want to get to London. My wife's from New York, so business Heathrow Airport is kind of easy. And we've got a daughter who's absolutely beautiful, and we have a dog as well, who sometimes may bark during these episodes. Sorry if that happens. Boisterous this time in town. We've also got a couple of bushes as well, and some fish, and the list of pets seems to be kept increasing, as it does if you've got a 7-year-old. Anyway, yes, so I came down to, in my head I came down to London. Of course, it's not really London, it's a place called Egham, and there's a university called Royal Holloway, which is actually part of the University of London, and I studied computer science. And I came down and did that in 1996, but up until that point, I just lived and grew up in Leeds. So, university, I enjoyed that for the most part. I didn't really do as much studying as I should have done, to be honest, looking back at it. In fact, pretty much most of the stuff that I've learned around science, more specifically around programming or professional software development, I pretty much learned on the job. So I spent a lot of time reading a lot of books, going to different training courses, and I've worked at some incredible places. And I had one of my first kind of starts, as it were, with a really good mentor. That's a dog. At a place called Valtech, and that was in London, which is a consultancy firm. And that's kind of nice because that consultancy firm was good because it did two things. One was it did development consultancy. So in other words, they put you out onto particular projects, do whatever development work you had to do, so whatever project they wanted you to work on, that kind of thing. But also as well, in addition to that, it was also training consultancy. So it gave training courses as well. And the standard of the training courses was phenomenally high, you know, and because I was in that consultancy firm, a side benefit of that, in fact the biggest benefit for me personally, as far as I'm concerned, was the fact that I had access to these training courses. Also I became friends as well with a really good guy there, who was one of the trainers, and in general I learned a lot when I was there. And that's really when I became properly, I'd say, interested in Java, but interested in Java at a kind of a deeper level than just using it as a basic kind of programming language. So yeah, I worked there for a little bit, and after that I moved on to various different places. I became, pretty much I guess within like 2 to 3 roles, I became a contractor, so like a freelance Java developer. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but in the UK a contractor basically means that you're not a permanent member of staff, so you're not a full-time employee, but instead you have a short period contract which you work under. And the idea is that in that particular space of time, you know, you get the project done and then you're either renewed or maybe you move on to a different project with another company. And because of the fact that it's short-term and you're not kind of like, you know, part of the furniture of a company, as it were, because of that fact, you end up getting more money, which for me at the time was fantastic because I was pretty young, I was in my 20s, and you know, the idea that I could get pretty much twice as much cash for doing kind of like the same job as a permanent employee, although I actually thought it would be kind of like a more advanced type thing, but it turned out, you know, it's really easy, to be honest. That was just a really good thing which mapped out well for me. Not least because of the cash, obviously, but the main reason for that, and the reason why it was good for me personally, was from a professional development point of view. So like because your contracts are normally 6 months or maybe a year in length, what's really good about it is it gives you the opportunity, kind of like a forced opportunity really, to be able to evaluate when the contracts are coming up for renewal or the contracts about to end, you know, where you want to go and what you want to do. And it forces you in that respect to be kind of cognizant about the decisions you're going to make in your career. So for example, if you're working with a particular technology or in a particular organization and you're not, you know, you kind of feel that you've had enough exposure to that particular technology, or you've got what you can from there, or indeed you want to move on and find like a different challenge in a different area, work with a different type of technology or a different kind of organization. So maybe you're in, for example, a retail e-commerce web development position before, and then maybe you want to move into banking or something and work in a different sector. You know, this kind of contracting model, it gives you that opportunity, that kind of forced opportunity at regular intervals to reevaluate your career, which I think is really great from a professional development point of view, because then, you know, you can kind of like, it's almost like a choose your own adventure type thing. Do you remember those books where you choose your own adventure, you get to a certain, you know, you read like a chapter or something, and it says at the end of the chapter, you do you want to go left into the cave, or do you want to go right up the mountain? And then you can choose basically where you want to go. And because of this, you can, kind of like shape your own development in a much more precise way than you can as a permanent employee. So true, if you're a permanent employee, you get benefits, like for example, you get training, so there's normally like a training budget which is allocated. Although most companies I find, in general, don't tend to stick to the training budget, so sometimes that can be negligible. But nevertheless, the difference is, instead of a company telling you how you're going to develop and developing you in accordance with their framework, instead of that, it's actually you that's deciding how you're going to develop, which is a much more autonomous model for professional development, which worked out well for me because, long story short, I learned a ton of different technologies, vast amount of experience working across different sectors, and that's now put me in a position where I can use the online world. Alternatively, pick up another contract from a whole heap of different sectors using different technologies which I wouldn't otherwise be able to have access to unless I had that